Yo, guys, I hope you're well. So, guys, this is a bit of a break from the norm, and I just wanted to give you guys a bit of a backdrop and a history about myself and how I got onto doing YouTube videos. And I wanted to start with the lockdown. So, we're looking at 2020 and go from there. I'm probably going to meander hither and thither. I'm going to try and keep it on topic and on point. And I just wanted to give you a backdrop and an insight into what led me into getting onto YouTube, which I thought I would never ever do. And to start a YouTube channel, actually, it's two YouTube channels to be correct and to be factually correct. But I think the best thing to do is to start from just before the lockdown. So we're talking about February of 2020. So, guys, February 2020, I start a new job. And it's a fantastic new job. More money, responsibility is about the same. I've always had responsibility in my jobs, but it was just a break from the norm. And I went from a very large corporate company into a much smaller disruptor, should we call it, as a company. So, guys, February 2020, everything is right with the world. Nothing is amiss, nothing's going on. Or there is something that's going on, but it's sort of in the background, but it's starting to loom over our shoulder. So, from potentially December of 2021, I remember we had the forest fires and the huge fires in Australia, and everyone's talking about it. And it was quite close to home for us because one of our friends was out there and we weren't too sure what was happening to them around that period, but they were okay. So, fast forward to 2020. So, I hope I said 20. I think I said 2021. I meant to say 2019. That's about Australian fires. Excuse me, 2019. I told you I was going to meander, but bear with me. So now we roll into 2020, January, February, get the new job, start. It's fantastic. So this is 3 weeks, 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks before the lockdown. So everything's going well. It's fantastic. I start my new job. I have lots of responsibility. I have clients out in Australia. I have clients in Europe, clients in America. So my job is very busy. It keeps me busy. So, guys, fantastic. The workplace is great. I meet all the new people there, the people that I'm going to be working with, the people I'm relating to. I meet some of the clients already. And yeah, it's all good. And then, if I remember rightly, it was either a week or 10 days or something like that, maybe less, before the actual lockdown occurred, that we were told to take all of our belongings, which is like your laptop and all the other work products that you use, etc., on your day-to-day business, and to work from home. So at the moment, we are using Google Hangouts, we're using Google Docs, we're using Google Meetings, we're using Zoom at the time. And we work from home for, I think, 3 days. It's almost like a disaster recovery event. So that goes really well. We get back into the office. And I remember, and I'm certain, well, I'm not certain. So it was either a Tuesday, and I keep thinking Thursday. And what it was Man City were due to play Arsenal that day. And there was a big thing with Mikel Arteta being ill and coming down. So we are talking in the few days before that, there were sort of ruminations and things going on about people dropping in Italy and in those sort of snowy regions where people go skiing, etc., with this new disease. And the thing I was talking about beforehand, sorry, because I segued away from it, that was coming up behind the shoulder, where there were rumors going on that something happened in Wuhan. But that was so far away that no one really put one and one together to add up to two. So basically, we were doing our jobs, we were all having a good laugh. And then I remember the day it happened. And I'm not sure, it was the weekend, wasn't it? So it's the Friday it happened when we started to get rumors that people started to become ill. And then we got the first person in the UK. Someone got a call from work. So it was someone that was, I'm not saying it was related to that person, but then it started going up in like a domino effect. So this started to get more and more real to us. Anyway, so we had this disaster recovery, and I remember the Friday we were told to take all our belongings home with us on that Friday. So I'm sure that Mikel Arteta was on the Thursday because the match between Man City and Arsenal, which was going to be a top of the table clash, was postponed. Mikel Arteta had come down with the, let's call it the COVID, we'll call it that. Anyway, I'm just going to move the story forward a little bit more so we don't waste more time on that. So this was basically totally brand new job, new experiences, fantastic, absolutely loved the job. And then we went home the weekend, and I found out the person I'd gone for a drink with on the Friday had signed off work ill with the COVID. Really? You can't even make it up. And that person was quite ill for quite a while. Anyway, so we were working from home, and then I think Boris Johnson told the whole country the middle of the week, was it on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, that we were in lockdown. So we're talking about, was it March the 15th, something like that, 10th, 15th, I can't remember the exact dates, but basically we were on lockdown. Because we were told to keep all our belongings, our work things at home, we were ready to go. Really? And that's the first thing that hits me, is that we'd had a disaster recovery event in our work just the week or 10 days before. So we knew that everything worked from home because we all worked from home for 3 days. Then we came back to work. Then the Mikel Arteta thing happened. And then we were told, Boris Johnson, go home, work from home. And we all thought it was going to be for a couple of weeks. Anyway, so I'm going to fast forward and working from home. And then within the first week or so of working from home, had an email from work, opened it up, and it was the first time I'd ever heard of the word furlough. And basically, we weren't being furloughed, but what we were told and we were asked was that all of us were to take a 20% pay cut. 20%, not 5%. Not 10%, but 20% pay cut. And if we didn't take this 20% pay cut across the board, then we would have to lose positions and our roles would be under threat. So we almost had like a secret ballot where we were told to basically say, are we prepared to take a 20% pay cut to save our jobs? Guess what? We all took the 20% pay cut, didn't we? So I was at my new job, new experiences, new everything, new pressures, immediately lost 20% of my new salary. But get here and get this, and this is the kicker. My work and my workload increased probably by 40%. Really? Yes, really, 40%. I'll tell you the reason why. I was coming downstairs, sitting at my makeshift workstation, 6 o'clock, 6:30 every day, because I was working with Australia. Okay. And then all the way through my day to 5:30, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the night, working with America. I had a half-hour break around 12:30. And in that half an hour break, I was in the back garden playing football with my son. So guys, my day went from 6 a.m. every single day till 7 p.m. And then from 7 p.m., I would go out for a run. And the reason why I'd go out for a run is because I'd been cooped up all day long. And remember, today is possibly the hottest day of the year. But that period in March all the way to August, September of 2020 was possibly one of the hottest and the most beautiful times in the entire, I can't remember a period so long where we had such great weather. But guys, the COVID was not a great time for me because I didn't get to go out much. I didn't get to do much. I was working like a donkey. And guys, I'd had 20% pay cuts, but I was working 40% extra. We had a go live date to go, which was July the 4th. I remember there were a few Sundays, 9 o'clock at night. I was working till 1 in the morning with Australia, getting ready for a go live. July the 4th go live. Remember July the 1st, we were working our socks off with all, because I was working with clients, and these were clients we were working with. So guys, that period was a beautiful period weather-wise, but I was basically burnt out from working 12, 13-hour straight shifts. So I'd get up at 7 o'clock in the evening, go for a run. I'd run from my house to my local park, because in our local park, we had a racetrack, an oval racetrack, and I would do laps and laps and laps around that track in the heat. Although 7 o'clock at night was great because it wasn't as hot as it was at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Anyway, so the reason why I'm saying this to you guys is that this is all leading up to me getting onto YouTube, doing a YouTube channel and everything else. So, as I said to you before, I'd never heard of the word furlough. So I was hearing left, right, and Chelsea, everyone was getting furloughed. They were being paid to stay off work. So if you were in the retail industry, tertiary industry, etc., if you worked in restaurants and things like that, you were paid to stay home. So for some people, they had a fantastic time during the lockdown. And for some other people, we worked our socks off, and we worked for, and I remember in the middle of July or the beginning of July, we actually met up in person. So I hadn't seen my work colleagues from the middle of March until the middle of July. I remember none of us had haircuts or anything like that for about 4 months. And we socially distanced, another word, social distancing, never heard of that word before. And the whole point about social distancing, was it meant to be 6 foot, 2 meters distance, etc. So we met up in the park. We had a socially distanced meal, if you could say that. I can't remember what that meal was. We'd ordered something from the local, whatever it was. And there was some alcohol as well. So that was in the park. I think it was either in Finsbury Square, Finsbury Circus, or something like that. We met up, and it was great to see people. Because apart from your nearest and dearest, we hadn't seen anyone for month upon month upon month. So literally, it was your nearest and dearest and talking to your neighbours from across the way, and that was it. So it's just weird to see human beings and not to see people on a screen, a computer screen. So guys, that was my experience of the lockdown, or the first half of the lockdown. And it was kind of crazy because I didn't experience it like a lot of people did. A lot of people did new bits and pieces. I remember hearing people saying about these YouTube channels have blown up, and this is what I'm going into, and I'm going to segue into YouTube and the YouTube channels. So if you think about it, I worked my socks off from February 2020, lockdown, March 2020, all the way through to the end of 2020, and then all the way through to the middle of 2021. Because remember, the country opened up again. What was it, in this October for a month? And then we locked down again for December again, something like that. And it was all crazy, crazy, crazy. So guys, in this time, I didn't have much time for anything. So at the time, I wasn't watching YouTube. I wasn't going online, doing social media or anything like that. And then I remember something happened. Don't even remember exactly what it was, but I went on to YouTube and I saw a music artist, and his name was Sidhu Musiala. And I watched this guy and I thought, this guy is incredible. Incredible. He's Punjabi, same height as me, 6'1", 6'1.5", same height as me, exactly the same, whatever. And I said, this guy is one of the best singers I've ever heard. And I thought, this guy's huge and he deserves to be huge. Just remember this. So with the YouTube, I didn't know anything about what was going on YouTube or anything like that. I didn't have time to do it. And I just started to flip onto YouTube in the evening. So between, I think, 7 and 7:30 or something, I was looking at UK music, UK hip hop, this, that, and everything else. And I started to comment on some of the YouTube channels. And I wasn't commenting in any other way apart from commenting on how the videos were made, because I'm into videography and things like that. I'm not going to go into it now, but I was just talking about stuff like that, just saying this is a great video and it could have been better if you did this or whatever. Basically, I think I was always positive anyway. I'm a positive person, always have been. So I was always saying, commenting on things I liked about videos. But then I spotted the YouTube reaction channel, and it's weird because I hadn't even gone onto YouTube for years. And I just thought to myself, this is interesting. And yeah, it was amazing because I hadn't listened to music from the end of 2011, 2012, all the way through to about 2021, 2022. And that was incredible. So it's 2021. So for the best part of 10 years, I'd stopped listening to music. And one of the reasons I'd stopped listening to music, guys, was because I had a young son and I started to see what the music industry was and how music videos were and how things, lyrics and whatever was pushed on the kids. And I didn't like that. And I didn't really wish that for my son to grow up watching and listen to things like that. But this guy, Sidham Siala, I looked at him and I thought, oh my goodness, this guy's a brilliant singer, blah, blah, blah. And I started to see that there was some really good people reacting to YouTube and to music on YouTube. And I thought to myself, you know something? Let's have a go at this. I'm probably not going to be very good. I'll just do 1 or 2 times and then I'll break north and do something else, get involved in something else. Anyway, I got into the YouTube stuff. I've had my channel. My channel was Urb'n Bars. It's still around. I haven't really been on that channel for the last year or so. I've got nearly 10,000 subscribers on that channel. But on that channel, if people actually look at it, they'll see that I've always tried to be positive. I'm a positive person by nature on the music I listen to. And what I wanted to do on that channel, and I told people, because I'm old school, I'm as old as the hills, I keep telling people that, I grew up with hip hop when hip hop was a really great form of music, where it was originally done by live bands. You had like your live house bands as well. You had people like who would be the backing musicians to people like Chic, this, that, and everything else, who were backing some of the music, and the lyrics were great. They weren't the swear words and all that sort of stuff that you have in hip hop, and not just hip hop, but in pop music and all music nowadays. So it was a bit of a absolute wow wake up call to see what UK hip hop was like, what hip hop was like and music was like in other countries. So I listened to music from Japan, listened to music from the States, listened to music from India, listened to music from Pakistan, listened to music from all the other areas. And it was really massive wake up call. And I looked at it and I started to review the music from a perspective, not just the music itself, but what I saw in the music and what I knew about music and the people I know in the music industry. Because I worked in the music industry for 10 years when I first started working, so I know a lot about it. I worked with a lot of famous people, a lot of top people, this, that, and everything else, which is neither here nor there. But I started to comment on these music tracks. And very early in my time doing music, so I think this was the end of 2021, July, August of 2021. And by then, there were already people who'd made a massive impact. So I was literally a year or so behind the curve, because people were doing stuff from the beginning of 2020 and they were getting massive, massive views because people were at home and not doing much else. Anyway, so not really want to go too much into the music, but from almost day one, I started talking about stuff which I probably shouldn't have started talking about, because I was getting a lot of kickback from YT. YT didn't like it because I was telling people about symbolism in music, about how they use numbers, numerology in music, how colors mean something. So not just the music, but the videos. This is what I'm trying to say, the videos. So the pop videos, the music videos you see, there's so much symbology, numerology, there's stuff with the colors and just other bits and pieces. You'll be amazed what videos really are and what videos are meant to tell you and what you're meant to get out subliminally from a video and this, that, and everything else. Anyway, so I was getting a lot of kickback from this, and this is almost from day one. And I couldn't understand why, because I like to be honest. So I don't make things up. So as a reaction, the video would play. I wouldn't listen to the video beforehand, and I would comment on the video. I'd comment on old school. I'd comment on what things happened back in the days. I'd comment on, okay, this artist sounds a bit like this artist, or the music came from here, or this is what they did on the video, this, that, and everything else, or how they actually shot the video. Normal things you comment on. But Whitey didn't like a lot of what I was commenting on. And I started to not just talk about the music, but I was talking about things like the economy and things like what was going on in the world, this, that, and everything else. And I was talking about other people like Jordan Peterson and other people intelligent people who have other viewpoints. And YT didn't like this. So to cut a long story short, I wanted to maneuver more away from the music side of things to talking about the social, economic side of the equation. And I started to maneuver away from that to that side of, if you want to call it the coin, the topic. About 2 years or so ago, I started to talk more and more about these bits and pieces and started to talk more and more on my channel. Anyway, to cut a long story short, fast forward to January of this year, I created my new channel, which you're watching now, Torn It TV. And one of the reasons I did that was because I needed to separate the music from the socio-economic, the political aspect of what's going on. And I couldn't really separate that because in a lot of the music, a lot of it is about socio-economic, political, and religious and whatever side. But I just wanted to cut those two and just to make a distinction between those two. And it's really weird because in the last year, when I was doing Urban Bars, I started talking more and more about what was going on in our country because I was seeing stuff that I did not like. And I really wrestled with this choice of doing this because I've always been into history. I'm into history, into European history, British history. I'm into whatever, anything historical, I'm into it. I'm into the history of words. I'm into philology, which is the history, the study of words and language. You know, I love words. You know, I love reading books, this, that, everything else. So it all sort of builds up to a point where I needed to move from dealing with urban bars to dealing more with what's going on here in the UK, because what I was seeing that was happening in the UK didn't resonate with me. And the funny thing is, it's just like with music, politics. I didn't want to get involved in politics. I really didn't, because I know that politics is very, very shady. It's a very, very, very shady subject. And then again, I'll go back to the guy I was talking about before, Sidhu Musiala, the musician, the singer, the rapper, whatever you want to call him. He started to get into politics, into Indian politics. And the moment he started moving away from music, he was already getting grief in the music. But when he moved into politics and he wanted to stand against the politicians in India, that is when they took him out. They stood down his bodyguard and Sidhu Musiala was shot dead in India. And that, a lot of his videos, I talked out about the political side of things, how it's shady to get involved in politics. Anyway, guys, it seems so, because now I'm doing my channel here at Torn It TV, and the shade is real, very real. So doing this channel, what I wanted to do was just to talk out about what is going on. So if you look at a political persuasion, I have an issue with basically all political parties, because they all eat and drink from the same trough. So if you're a Liberal Democrat, if you are a Tory, if you are a Labour or whatever, there are certain issues and certain edicts that you come from and certain opinions that people have, which you can equate to each party. So I like to look from the outside in and to raise questions about all of them, because when you look at it, and when you look at it really, really closely, there isn't too much difference from how these people are treated us. There isn't too much difference apart from what's going on right now with Labour is they are blatant, in your face. They say they stand up for the genuine person, the worker, the poor and the downtrodden, the sick, the ill, the aged, but they don't. The Labour Party possibly stood up for these people in 1945. They possibly stood up for these people under Keir Hardie, but they certainly do not stand up for these people under Keir Starmer. And what it is that whether you're Labour or Conservative, they've both in the last so many decades gone out of their way to really destroy certain parts of our population. What I'm seeing is there's been a divide and a rule. And I've talked about that from my other channel for years. And as soon as I talked about divide and rule, they hated it. And I was hit behind the scenes, left, right, and Chelsea. So many things by YT, left, right, and Chelsea. And they're still doing it now on my channel now. For months, made certain my figures didn't move. For months, they made certain that I had to jump through hoops, this, that, and everything else. All sorts of nonsense going on behind the scenes. All sorts of nonsense on both channels. So yeah, it's a weird one. And it's why on this channel as well, I love to post. I love to do posts. So a lot of people don't understand, and maybe you won't know. If you do a post on YouTube, on YT, it doesn't register, it doesn't count, you don't get anything for it. So if you look at my posts, I do a heck of a lot of posts. I post all the time. And one of the reasons why I do that is because I can get my message out very, very quickly. I don't have to get a camera, set it up and do all these things and then try and remember what it is that hit me in the head. Just get my mobile phone out, tap into it, and then let it go. And that's it. It's very quick and very easy. But I do give kudos to all of those people who are on the political side of things, who do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 videos a day on various different topics to let you know what's going on. It is important to allow people to have access to what is going on. And this is what has not been allowed to us. And this is what they're trying to stop us from having. So on my old channel, I always talked about freedom of speech from day one. Freedom of speech is one of the most important things I've talked about. I talk about it on this channel here. There's two main things I think about. It's freedom of speech, and I think about how they treat our children. And those two elements, those two areas, if you look at it, everything comes back to that. So if you walk in a straight line, if you walk in a diagonal line, if you walk in a haphazard line, if you walk in any kind of line, you walk in whatever, you'll always come back to those two topics of freedom of speech and how they treat our children. So those two things, in my eyes, will define how a real and proper democracy is run and how a democracy is. If the people are denied the freedom of speech, then there is no democracy. If the people are denied to have their children grow up in a safe, proper and loving environment, then there is no democracy. No matter how you say, how forward thinking and progressive you are. Oh, you're into things. I can't even say, let's just say the weather, because apparently there's going to be laws against people's talk and they're going to be called weather haters. Let's call it weather haters. So I can't even say that. So the whole point about freedom of speech is to be able to talk and to discuss topics. So you and I may have a difference of opinion about certain topics, but if you can talk and debate and have discourse about topics, then it's great. But with them trying to take away our freedom of speech, that means people are closed down. You can't have a proper conversation about anything. And if anyone knows me, I self-censor what I say. I self-censor everything that I say on the fly. I do not swear on my channel. I've never sworn on my channels. I don't swear. I don't try and stir the pot and do this, that, and third. I don't try and talk about conspiracy theories or anything like that. I just tell you how it is and how it's affected me, and I try and react to it in a nice and proper manner and ask you guys questions. I learn a lot from you. But yeah, this thing about children and free speech has always been something that's hard here on my heart. And yeah, if it means that at some point they drag me away for talking about it, it's going to happen. But I'm prepared to suffer the consequences because I think these are the two most important things in our lives. And the one thing people have to look back at, if they take away our freedom of speech, remember what happened in Nazi Germany. Remember what happened under Stalin. Remember what happened. They lost their freedoms of speech. And the moment they lost their freedoms of speech, they lost everything else because it was just the precursor to everything that comes after that. I'm not going to talk about it now, but I know what happens when freedom of speech is taken away and freedom of speech disappears. Wow. People are not allowed to criticize anything. So when dark things happen, there's no freedom of speech. There's no one to voice an alternative or a different opinion on something, and things happen. But guys, that's all I was going to say today. So yeah, so 2020, the COVID happened. I was working 12, 13-hour shifts, 20% pay cut, 40% increase in volume of work. I was working Sunday nights to 1 in the morning and then Monday mornings again at 6 to get things over the line. Had clients in Australia, clients in America and Europe, long days, running in the evenings just to try to release some of the pressure, the stress, the tension. Wow, those were incredible times. And then 2021 started a YouTube channel, Urb'n Bars. It was all about the music, tried to be positive. I think I only ever did maybe 1 or 2 reactions where I probably didn't like the music, but I always try and look for the good in people, the good in things. And then beginning of this year, I moved on to Tornit TV, and I've started to talk about what's going on here in the UK. And yeah, there's a lot of things that are going on here in the UK that are quite strange. Let's put it that way, quite strange. So if you look at what is going on with the pensioners, and this is another thing that's hit me. This is another thing that's hit me because I've seen this over the years, how policies have been definitely worked against the pensioners for several years. So in this age of technology, they're trying to move people who haven't even had that much use with a mobile phone or probably don't even have a mobile phone to be forced to use all this modern technology. And I've seen it, and I've seen how daunting it is to the older person. And the reason they've done this is to make certain that they can take away all these other things, from check writing checks, to all sorts, and to having to be online to register to even be eligible for these welfare credits and other bits and pieces. Not right what's happening. And they're moving us to a cashless society. They are forcing the banks to shut down. Banks are shutting down left, right, and Chelsea because they're forcing us, and not just the banks, but the shops and the stores. Is this one reason why all this shoplifting is happening? The stores will shut down. Everything is moving online. And the reason why that's happening is possibly because once everything's online and once we are moved to a cashless society and a digital and digitized society, there'll be more control from the states, less control and less options for ourselves. But that is for another day. So guys, I'm sorry I've meandered and I've talked and I've moved from hither to hither to hither. Sorry, from hither to thither to thither. Who knows? Left, right, and Chelsea, guys. Left, right, and Chelsea. But I've just tried to give you a bit of a flavour of where I have come from to where I'm at now with my channel. And again, YT, messing about with my numbers, messing about with my figures. It's even rolling them back. It's done that on a regular basis for the best part of 3-4 years anyway, so I'm used to that. So yeah, it is what it is, guys. Some people have a smooth run, a smooth ride in life. Some people meet obstacles and have obstacles thrust in front of them. But as the saying goes, you can either go over, you can go under, you can go around, or you can just beat your head against a brick wall. Guys, I always look for a way to get around an obstacle whether it's over, under, around, or whatever. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, sorry guys, I've been meandering around a lot because I just wanted to just give you a bit of a flavor of where I've come from and where I'm headed. So where I'm headed, I'd like to talk a lot more about personal effects of what's happening. So a lot more about what's happening to you, to me, how it's affecting the individual person. So we know what's going on with the political parties. And to be honest with you, I think that at some point there will no longer be political parties because they've all shown themselves up to be quite complicit, particularly where it comes to the grooming gangs, where it comes to children, our children, and how our children are treated. Absolutely disgusting. I'm disgusted with all of them, but we'll leave it there. But I think in the next few years, the way that the political parties are structured, the way that they've acted, and the way that Europe is really knocking on our door, we are going to be engulfed. And I think the political parties, remember, a lot of people saying Conservative Party is dead already, but a lot of people, well, I'm thinking that the political parties will either be defunct or they will not have the role they have or the powerful role they have now. Something else will be in place, and that's what they've been working on for a while. This is my opinion. It's not a conspiracy theory. I've not heard it from anyone else, but it's just from me looking and seeing what's going on. Most of these parties are not fit for purpose, and I think sometimes these things do not happen by coincidence. I keep saying there's no such thing as coincidence in this world. If you go back and look at an audit trail, you'll see that there isn't a coincidence. It was meant to happen. But guys, yeah, from the COVID all the way through to today, this is where we're at now. So from my previous channel, which I'm still using for music and haven't used for a while, which I need to get back into, Urban Bars, to Tornit TV, I'd like to wish everyone a fantastically brilliant weekend. Make certain you look after yourselves, make certain you look after each other, and please, guys, come back to the next reaction. But guys, if you have any ideas for topics or anything that really grinds your teeth, that really makes you absolutely fume from head to toe, please let me know. Contact me. The details are there for you to contact me. Let me know and I'll look into it. But until then, make sure you look after yourselves, you look after each other, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.